to Foster Hill Road Cemetery. Well, I say Foster Hill Road Cemetery, but in fact, it could have been given a different name. It could have been named after me. You see, I was the person mainly responsible for founding the cemetery in 1855. Named Wyatt, James Wyatt. I think it's got a nice ring to that name. And as you can probably guess, I'm dead. Well, in your day and age, you don't see many people dressed like this, do you? I died in 1878. I'm buried up the top of the hill there, with the rest of my family, and lots of descendants. Including, for some reason, the gardener's boy as well. I don't know who put him in there, one of the servants. It's a very nice plot there, up there. Afterwards, you'll go and have a look at it. It's quite a nice place. But ever since, I've wandered around this cemetery. I've seen everything that happens here. I've seen all the funerals. I've heard all the prayers at the graveside. And I've heard all the comments made by the families and friends at the graveside of the deceased. I've heard it all. And today, I've come along, I've popped out of my grave to tell you the story, a little bit about my life and the cemetery. And I've invited along a few other people, some other permanent residents of the cemetery. But this is a one-off. After we're finished here, we're off back to our graves. You won't see us again. But you're going to hear the story of some people buried here, right from the horse's mouth. And like I say, I see everything that goes on here. In fact, I recognise some people here this afternoon. Yeah, Ted. Yeah, Sue. Margaret. Oh, there's lots of them I see around here. Every week of the year. I want to say thank you to you. Thank you, because you're the people who tidy up the graves. You're the people who carry out the walks around the cemetery. You're the people who do lots of work in the background. Some of you aren't here today, and there's other people as well. There's Colin and Malcolm and Linda and all sorts. Thank you. But to get back to myself, I was proud of Bedford when I was alive. I liked it. It's a good little town. I didn't actually come from Bedford myself. I came from Hertfordshire, down Hempstead. And when I was young, I decided I wasn't going to join the family firm. I wanted to do things that amused me. I was interested in natural history, geology. I liked finding fossils. But the thing I liked most of all was writing. And I became a journalist. Not a wonderful journalist, but a journalist all the same. See, that's why I've got my notebook here. And a pencil. Because you never know when you're going to come across a good story, do you? But I'm ready for it, even though I'm dead. I travel around a bit as a journalist, go to various places, saw some interesting people. I particularly enjoyed my time in London. I worked for the Chronicle, very good publication. Like I say, I was a journalist, an okay journalist, but there was one chap there I met. You could tell straight away he was going to go somewhere. His name was Charles Dickens. Nice chap. Eventually, I came to Bedford. And I liked Bedford. I was a journalist here. Thought I'd set the roots down. I even made up my own newspaper called the Bedford Times. It was a good paper. Eventually, it went out of business after I died. It was a good place. Now, I often told my friends what a good place Bedford was. And I remember once, about 1840 odd it was, a friend came up from London. We strolled down the high street, down towards the river, showing him the sights. He was interested in learning more about John Bunyan. So we took the side detour, and I was telling him about John Bunyan and everything that happened to him. And I suddenly realised that he wasn't listening anymore. I looked behind and there he wasn't leaning against the wall. He virtually fainted. I thought, what's wrong with him? He said, my God, Wyatt, he says, this place stinks. Bedford stinks. I was being solemn by that. I always thought it was quite a nice place. So, good the area, but there actually was a bit of a pong about. And he told me the reason for this. He said, cemeteries. Cemeteries. And he told me that what was happening, not just in Bedford, but in many parts of the country, there have been very, very big increases in the population. People were moving towards the big cities of the north, London and so on, to work at the new factories. And of course, they needed accommodation, they lived in overcrowded conditions, there was virtually no sanitation, and there were outbreaks of things like cholera. So people died in their droves. And obviously they've got to be buried somewhere, and traditionally you get buried in the Church of England's graveyard. Worked perfectly right for centuries. People were buried with dignity, and of course it's a nice source of income for the Church of England, by the way. But now they couldn't cope. There were too many people being buried. He told me about one cemetery in Islington, where he lived. It actually got space for 2,100 people to be buried. But in the space of 1 year, there had been 20,000 buried there. People weren't being buried with dignity, and it affected the health of the remaining population as well. What people were doing all over the country was introduce what were called municipal cemeteries. Very simply, there'd be a cemetery in an open patch of land far away from the main population, so people would have dignity. I thought this was a damn good idea. Now, of course, one thing that a journalist likes more than anything else is a good campaign. So I had a campaign with my newspaper for the opening of a municipal cemetery. And I produced a report. Bedford has an extreme smell of gases of decomposition. In one street of 220 places, 4 graveyards occupy its southern and its hottest side. There is a horrible stinking candle melting factory. Opposite is a butcher's slaughterhouse and a dung heap and a stable, all under the same roof. Further along is a burial ground, walled up in a Baptist chapel. 20 yards further is the graveyard of the Howard Chapel. Then the leather dressing workshop, which smells of one of its main raw materials, urine. Then there's the very densely filled graveyard of the Bunyan Chapel, separated by a narrow road from the graveyard of St Cuthbert's parish. This road is known as Mill Street, but it might just as well be known as the Bog of Eternal Stench Street. Something had to be done. My campaign helped. Of course, it cost money. Where was the money going to come from? Luckily, I happened to be the borough treasurer at the time. So I had a word with the politicians and pulled a few strings and twiddled a few knobs. That's the way it works, really, isn't it? And the money was found from somewhere. This cemetery was opened in 1855. So it was a very, very happy time for me, because obviously this was my achievement. It was also a sad time though, because a few weeks after it opened, one person buried here was my young son Otho, who's only 10. In fact, the first person buried here, she was only 2 years old. She was a young Italian girl. Ellen Tacci, her name was. She's buried up the top there. You might like to see that sometime. Nowadays, I think that's very, very appropriate, because of course, 100 years after the cemetery opened, we had a big influx of Italian people here. And I'm very proud of the fact that in this cemetery, there are people from all sorts of countries and religions. They all get on very well, just like in the town generally. So the cemetery is open. There were 2 buildings here. Down the bottom of the hill, where you probably came earlier on, there was the gatehouse. Now that was the office for the first superintendent of the cemetery, Mr. Dan. Mr. Dan, the cemetery man, we called him. Very efficient chap. Now that was the office. It was also his home. He lived there with his wife and children. I think he had about 8 or 9 of them actually. Now you might think it's not very nice for young children to be living, not just at the office, but at the cemetery. But it's worse than that actually, because the building was also a mortuary. He's buried down there with his family. They're worth looking at as well. This building was the chapel, or should I say two chapels. On the far side, that was the Anglican chapel, for the Church of England people. This side was the Dissenters' chapel, for the non-conformists, for everybody else. The cemetery is full. I know you'll see some green spaces over there, but there are people buried there. Over 100,000 people are buried here. There are all sorts of people out there. As one newspaper might have said, all human life is here. There are good people there, there are bad people. Most of them, just like all of us in this room, are somewhere in between. There are some people who are loved, some people virtually forgotten about as soon as they went into the ground. But they've all got some kind of story to tell. I, in my very, very small way, was important in that I helped set this place up. Some of the other people are going to meet in a few minutes, and more important than me. The first one I'd like you to meet, you probably never heard of. You probably never heard of me before today. The first person was actually very important. He was important in the area of prison reform.
Good afternoon, my name is Robert Evan Roberts. I was born in Woolwich, the son of a gunner in the Royal Artillery. I joined the prison service in 1842, at the age of 25, and went to work in Manchester. I married Mary Ann Phelps. I became clerk to the borough of Salford, and from there I became governor of Westmoreland County Jail in Appleby. In 1853, a governor was required for the Bedford County Jail, and from 59 candidates, I was chosen. I was chosen to follow in the footsteps of John Howard. The recent Penal Servitude Act meant that few prisoners were now transported, which meant more for jails like Bedford, but we had the room. And we also took in prisoners from other areas at their expense, and also from military prisons. In my first report, I stated that I beg to recommend that prisoners are employed in mat making and the spinning of coarse materials. These were afforded employment for prisoners not sentenced to hard labour, and for a break, a relief from the crack for prisoners sentenced to hard labour for long periods. I wouldn't say that I was well off on my salary, but I could afford a cook, I could afford a maid to look after my family, and I could also afford a hobby. I bought a camera, one of the first cameras in the whole of Bedfordshire. Fortunately, I had a whole jail full of subjects, and they were given 2 hours off from their toil to smarten themselves up, and they were very happy with that. One of the benefits of this was that every now and then we'd have a prisoner come in who was a spitting image of someone who had only recently been in. The only difference was the name. It's usually a vagrant. But now with these photographs, I could show the magistrates it was one and the same person. But I wasn't just for longer sentences. I had very grave concerns about the way young women were given pushed things by devious salesmen. I took these concerns to the magistrates, and they listened to them, so it was no longer a debtor's prison for them. But because of the increase in women prisoners, I built extra cells for them. My photographs and my detailed descriptions became standard issue throughout the whole prison service. In 1861, I was given a sum to cover my expenses on chemicals over the previous 2 years. I was given an allowance for years to come, and I was also built a room in which to develop the photographs. After 25 years of being in charge at Bedford, I could show from my detailed accounts that the work from prison labour had created a profit of £18,158, 13 shillings exactly. What was equally gratifying was the report of breaches of prison rules and idleness were fewer under my regime. The sum would have been higher, but in 1865 the Prison Act determined that Prison work had to be tedious, unpleasant and unconstructive, such as picking oakum or working on the crank. I'd shown what could be done with my enlightened regime, but the die-hards had won the day. However, the local justices were still very pleased with me, and in 1872 they sent me to the International Penitentiary Congress in the Middle Temple Hall in London, where I could tell them that I could pay my prisoners up to threepence a week and still make a profit. The local MP stated that throughout the length and breadth of England, it is well known that Bedford Jail is well managed. But my memories of Bedford aren't all great. All the prisons were nationalised. That was fine, I was kept on. But in 1885, at the age of 67, I was asked to take over York Prison. I rejected this kind offer and I was dismissed the service after all that I had done. The hard work, the innovations. John Howard would have been proud of me. I retired and moved to Staines with my second wife, Adelaide, to enjoy my retirement. But why did I come back to be buried in Bedford? When I first moved to Bedford, Mary and I were very pleased to be moving into a newly built governor's house. But for whatever reason, it was always damp. It made my whole family ill. Shortly after we moved here, our twins were born, Robert George and Elizabeth. Unfortunately, Elizabeth died 6 weeks later. She was buried down in St Paul's in the centre of town because this cemetery wasn't built then. But it was a portent of things to come, and soon I was having to buy my own plot here. Within 4 years of moving to Bedford, 3 of my 4 children had died. And 4 years after that, their mother followed them, suffered from apoplexy. The prison surgeon gave his opinion that the unwholesome nature of the prisoner's house, the governor's house, materially affected, aggravated any illness. The county surveyor recommended that it be pulled down, but it was just altered with the help of prison labour. Shortly after my period of mourning, I met Adelaide Chancellor and we were married. She gave me 4 children, but in the 7th year, the youngest, Lillian, she was taken from us as well and came to join her siblings here. In 1892, I died in Richmond and I followed them. And some 20 years later, Adelaide, my second wife, joined us too. We're all in the same plot. Please do visit. It's in a Victorian Gothic style, very nicely done. So I have mixed feelings about Bedford. I have great pride in what I achieved here, but there's also a tinge of sadness as well at what else could have been done.
I think he was very badly treated indeed in his retirement. And he has got a very nice grave. That's worth looking at. Very good one. Not quite as good as mine. He dealt with criminals. And of course, in this cemetery, we've got criminals. Some often were found out, and some weren't. Got away scot-free. And of course, one of the very, very worst crimes is murder. But not all murders are as you read about them in the newspapers. Sometimes they can be tales of innocence, mistaken intentions, accidents. The next 2 people tell about the murder. First, you'll see the victim, the young lady who is the victim of the murder, and then the murderer himself.
My name is Eleanor Evelyn McKay. I was born in Cheshire. My father and grandfather were involved in the shipbuilding industry. We were well off. Sadly, my father died when I was 5, and my mother moved us to Bedford so that we could get a good education. I was 20 when I died in 1883, killed by the merciless hand of a jealous man. My life was over before it had begun. It was a day like any other. It had been a warm July day, and at about 6 in the evening, my friend Maud and I went to play a game of tennis in the paddock behind the ship inn. It was the first time I had played there. Her brother Edgar and Mr. Simpson accompanied us. Then Mr. Vasey Veer entered the paddock. He was a friend of Charles Stimson's. I felt uncomfortable at seeing him and said I would leave. He had quarrelled with me the previous week. I had to make it clear to him that I did not want to marry him and found his attentions offensive to me. I had met him earlier that year, after he left the army. We mixed in the same circles. He was very polite at first and behaved like a gentleman, but he started calling on me and became obsessed. I could not respond to him. There was such intensity in his behaviour it frightened me. My mother did not approve of his pursuit of me. She found his behaviour odd. He said I was his shining light, and that when he was with me, his cares disappeared. My mother thought he lost his nerve in the Egyptian war and could not settle to civilian life. Mr. Vasey left, and we went on with our game, but he came back into the tennis court and killed me with a bullet.
My name is Lieutenant Hubert Wigram Vasey, and I took the life of the girl I loved. It was the action of a coward. Naturally, I had to die too after that, so I took a bullet to the head, exactly as I killed her. She rejected me. I was 22, she was 20. Both our lives wasted, for what? My family had served Great Britain well in the colonial service. I was born in France and educated at Bedford School in Sandhurst. I spent some time in India where my father was a customs officer. Joining the army was my destiny. I enjoyed it. The York and Lancashire Regiment. But then we were sent to Egypt for a battle. Tel El Kabir. I don't even know what it was about. I killed hundreds of them, the natives. But I got ill. The water was foul. I resigned my commission and came back to Bedford. I could not stop thinking about the battle. There were these pictures, images in my head I could not remove. In my sleep I wasn't safe. I could not sleep. I kept having nightmares. I'd wake up in sweats. The sound of shell fire in my head. But when I met Eleanor, it seemed to me she was an angel. An angel sent to save me. When I was with her, my troubles dissolved. She calmed me. I saw in her the only happiness I had. I tried to make her understand, but she found me intimidating. Finally, she told me my intentions were unwanted and not to see her again. I was in pits of despair. When I found out she was playing tennis with my friend Stimson, another young man, I knew I had to see her again. To make sure it was over, one last time. I was very agitated. When I arrived, she wanted me to leave. So, I left, went to the pub, bought brandy. I knew I could not live without her. This had to end. So I went out, and I did the deed. I shot her, then myself, and it was all over. All wasted. We were buried on the same day. She in the morning, me in the afternoon. I'm quite near to her now.
So that was a sad tale. Just two young minds wasted, completely unnecessarily. I saw both funerals. As he says, she was buried at 12:30, and he was buried 2 hours later. In fact, there were some mourners who went to both funerals, so I like to think that perhaps there was a little bit of forgiveness somewhere along the line. And again, as he says, he's buried only 100 yards away from her. Now, the next person I've got, she's a bit of a conundrum. People really don't know what to make of her. Now, to some people, She was a wonderful, charismatic, kind leader of a secretive organisation called the Panacea Society. To other people, she was a madwoman, completely deluded. Now, when I was alive, I'd love to have interviewed her. So, we'll see. Good morning. Mrs. Bartrop, I believe.
Could you introduce yourself properly, please?
Oh,
And your name is?
I'm very sorry. It's Wyatt. Very sorry to offend you.
Thank you, yes. I do think it's really, really important to have proper etiquette and proper manners. As leader of the Panacea Society, I have very, very strict rules on manners and how to behave appropriately when out in public.
Yes, well, I do beg your pardon, but it is Mrs. Bartrop. You see, I've seen your grave, and your name isn't actually on it, is it?
My grave has the initials MB, Mabel Baltrop. That was the name that I was born with. However, God spoke through me, and as He spoke through me and gave me direct communication, I became Octavia, prophet number 8 in the line of prophets known as the Visitation.
So, what's the story behind that, well then? You're a great prophet and the daughter of God, I understand.
That's right, yes. As I mentioned, when I moved to Bedford, very shortly my Arthur died, and it was then that God started to speak to me. And as He spoke to me, I realised my mission. He gave me my mission, and it was to open Joanna Southcott's box. Joanna Southcott was prophet number 2 in the line of prophets, of which I'm prophet number 8. And when she died in 1804, she sealed a box of prophecies. And the idea was that as soon as the bishops could come and open the box, then the end of darkness would be over and Jesus Christ would come back and live in Bedford. Therefore, myself and my followers, we petitioned the Church of England constantly to open the box. We had huge national advertising campaigns. We had billboards over London. We had 100,000 people sign the petition to the Church of England. But what I don't understand is, despite all of this, the bishops didn't come and they still haven't opened the box.
Oh, yes, I believe you did have quite a lot of followers, didn't you? And a lot of them are buried here in this cemetery. I noticed one, Ellen Oliver. She was a suffragette, if I remember rightly.
Yes, she was a suffragette, and I do think it's very important that women play a part in religion and politics, don't you?
Yes, I do.
Well, honestly. So in our heyday, we had 2,000 followers, of which 50 came to live in Bedford so we could set up our international headquarters. That's why so many of them are buried here now. You're coughing, are you okay?
No, I'm afraid I've got tuberculosis.
Don't worry, we have a huge healing ministry at the Panacea Society. Because I am divine, I have divine breath. I breathed over linen squares, and if you put one of these linen squares in a glass of water and drink it in your water, you'll be fine. Here we go. We have 130,000 people over 90 countries that write in. Our cure is completely free of charge and you don't even have to believe. But it does work. Everyone tells us so. You will probably have to write in to get the instructions though, but you will be fine.
I see. Right. So there's all this going on. What did your family think of all this then?
Well, it's very sad. As I mentioned earlier, my Arthur died just as I moved to Bedford. I had 4 children. My first son, he died in the war. I had 2 other sons. One went to Canada and the other one went to Australia. Neither of them believers. It does seem that they went a long way away from me. However, my daughter Dilla, she stayed with me throughout and she stayed with the society. In fact, she's also buried here with me. It gives me such comfort.
Excuse me.
You're writing? What are you writing?
Yes, well, I'm a gentleman of the press, you see, so
Yes.
I'm recording our conversation.
Did you ask for my permission?
I didn't.
Well, I'm very sorry. I don't give interviews to the press, and certainly not local press and the hoi polloi. Thank you.
Well, there she goes, and there goes my story as well, I'm afraid. I still don't know what to make of her. There's about 100 of her followers buried in Bedford Cemetery, and about 20 of them have got some kind of memorial. Her memorial is rather strange. It hasn't got a name on it, just some enigmatic wording on it. That's worth looking at as well. That puzzles some visitors to the cemetery. There's something else that often puzzles visitors to the cemetery. We've got a very, very fine soldiers' memorial, just halfway over the cemetery there. There are quite a lot of soldiers there who died in the First World War. Not surprising, you might think. Obviously, such memorials are common all over the country. But if you look at them, look at the stones, you'll see they're Scottish. And not only are they Scottish, they're from the Highlands. So the puzzle is, why should it be that those soldiers, who should be buried in France or Belgium, or preferably in the beautiful Highlands of Scotland, are buried in Bedford? The next person will explain.
My name is Peter John McKinnon, but my family and friends call me Pat. I was born at Struan in the parish of Bracadale on the island of Skye on the 15th of June 1892. My parents were Duncan and Jessie McKinnon. When I was finished with the school, I joined my father's trade as a house carpenter. I was his apprentice, and we enjoyed working together. We were also crofters, looking after a wee bit of land. I suppose it was a simple life in comparison to some, and it was often very hard work. But we knew no other way, and I think we were quite content. When I was old enough, I joined the Camerons. H Company, 4th Battalion, Queen's Own Cameron Highlanders, part of the territorial force. All my pals were members. There were some who called us the Saturday night soldiers, but we prefer to call ourselves the Terriers. We were mustered with the other territorial battalions of Scotland's other great regiments, the Gordons, the Seaforths and the Argyles. Although we were amateur soldiers, we were quite well trained. To be honest, I don't think any of us ever thought we'd be called on to fight. But the Terriers were mobilised as soon as the war started. On the 7th of August 1914, we said our farewells to family and friends and began the journey across to the mainland to join our comrades. On the 15th of August, we began the journey south to Bedford by rail. That journey seemed to take forever, and the troop trains were jam-packed with men and their kit. Oh, it really was such a tedious and uncomfortable trip, and when we finally arrived in Bedford some 18 hours after leaving Inverness, we were tired and famished. So imagine our surprise and delight when we stepped off the train, and there were the good people of Bedford plying us with trays of tea, coffee, sandwiches and cakes. Oh man, it was grand. And it was only a sign of things to come, as the people of the town brought us into their hearts. So after we packed up some, we formed ranks behind our pipes and drums and marched into the town centre to our new billets. Some of us were put into empty houses, while the lucky ones among us were billeted with local families. But communication was not always easy at first. That may seem odd, but not so when you consider that more than 2/3 of us spoke the Gaelic first and foremost. English to us was a second language, and we spoke it with such heavy, lilting accents that the local folk couldn't understand a word we were saying at first. Those of us from the more remote parts of the Highlands and Islands found it hard to adjust to the hustle and bustle of Bedford. The town's population at that time was some 35,000. The Highland Division alone numbered some 17,000 men. Just imagine that. 17,000 men with all their kit, equipment, horses and wagons descending in your town in the space of 3 days. Oh, and we also brought with us no fewer than 12 pipe bands. Once we'd settled into our billets, we started training for war. We fought mock battles in the fields and dug practice trenches in Clapham Park. We were kept fit with regular route marches of some 18 miles, carrying full rifle and pack. All the while, the curious Bedfordians looked on with great interest and were always ready to boost our flagging spirits with tea and cake. Oh man, it was a grand time. And although I missed my home far away in Scotland, I was very happy. The day after we arrived in Bedford, the mayor set up the Borough Recreation Committee for the troops. Hundreds of volunteers were mustered, mainly ladies from the town and the surrounding villages. Nothing was too much trouble for them. They organised canteens in each of our billeting districts. The central canteen in the Corn Exchange was said to be serving some 200 weight of porridge every evening while us kilties were in town. They organised dances and arranged concerts. And the ladies of the local physical education college entertained us with a display of gymnastics. We even had some visits from the big names, among them Harry Lauder, whose own son was an officer with the Argylls in Bedford. Besides that, there was plenty to amuse us in the town, with its cinemas, music halls, theatres, and any number of cafes, tea rooms and pubs. The views from the front, though, was never encouraging. The British Expeditionary Force was struggling to hold its ground against the German advances in France and Belgium. Good soldiers are regulars, but too few in number. Rumours were rife that we would be sent any moment to reinforce the line. By that stage, however, my own story had taken a far darker turn. The onset of a cold, hard winter signalled the start of several months of suffering for the division as disease struck us down. Measles, diphtheria and scarlet fever ran like wildfire through our ranks. Those of us from the more remote parts, you see, had never been exposed to these diseases before. What makes it worse is that when these diseases affect an adult, the effects are often extremely hard indeed. I recall I started to feel unwell at the end of October. At first I thought I had caught a cold, but it soon became all too apparent I had contracted measles. Not just me, but dozens of others. We all felt so sick and wretched. There had been little that could be done to alleviate our symptoms. The people of Bedford were shocked and appalled by what they saw. You see, some of us were dying, and they couldn't understand why such fit young men in their prime were dropping like flies. They thought the army wasn't doing enough to look after us properly. That wasn't really fair, because in those days they didn't have the medicines that could help us. The main killer was bronchial pneumonia, a secondary infection to measles. And that is what finished me on the 21st of December, 1914. I had written to my father several weeks before I died, telling him that I had no fear of what might happen to me, and that I had been steadfast in saying my prayers and reading my Bible since leaving home. I thought that I should recover, but it wasn't to be. I was one of 25 caravans that died of disease in Bedford that winter. The division as a whole lost 140 men, and hundreds more fell ill but recovered. Those of us who succumbed were either taken home to Scotland for burial, or were laid to rest here in the peace and tranquility of Foster Hill Road Cemetery. My own father was devastated by the news of my death. He sent word to Bedford saying that if I could not be brought home to Struan, I should at least be given a respectable coffin and burial. I believe he received some comfort from the news that all of the officers and men of my company, bar one who was sick with measles, attended my funeral, and that the service was in the garrick. As I was lowered into the ground, one of our pipers played "The Flowers of the Forest," the lament for a lost soldier. There are 30 of us Highlanders lying at peace here at Foster Hill Road. 8 of us are Cameron boys. It's not Skye, but it's still a beautiful place to be lying in peace with friends and comrades. It's funny to think that so many of my Cameron pals now lie in France. They lived only a few months longer than me before they were cut down by the German machine guns in the mud and desolation of Festubert in May 1915.